Good morning and welcome to Move and Bloom, a safe space where together we can grow possibilities. I'm Anna Maria Pardo and I am super excited to have with me today Zahra Zuhair. Zahra is dedicated to the art of Middle Eastern dance. She's an international performer, instructor, and choreographer. And for the past 4 decades, she's traveled throughout North Africa and the Middle East to immerse herself in the world of these dances. She's had the great good fortune to study with some of the great names of Egyptian dance, since Egyptian dance is her particular speciality. These include Ibrahim Akef, Mahmoud Reda, Farida Fahmy, and Rakhia Hassan. As you can imagine, this means that Zahra herself has trained many of the stars of Middle Eastern dance dancing today. I'm super excited to have her here to talk about her story, her online offerings, and for those of you who follow me for all things neuromovement related, to talk a bit more about her approach to teaching dance from a more whole body perspective. So without further ado, welcome, Zahra. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I am too. So without further ado, could you just start your story? We can't wait to hear the bedtime story that is Zahra Zuhair.
Well, I've always been an artist ever since I was very young.
Mhm.
I love dancing and music and love dance classes. Love to paint and draw. Um, Dance was really special to me. I felt that I always needed to move.
Mhm.
So movement is very important to me. Um, so that was something that I started very young. And in my teens, my mom wanted to take Middle Eastern dance lessons. And I went along with it. And I'm the one that fell in love. And I started doing classes on my own. I paid for my own classes and with my babysitting money and whatever I could come up with to take classes. And I just was completely in love with it. There was something special about it to me that it was just different than other dance forms to me. It was I loved the music. The music's very rich. I found it very challenging
Mhm.
to the different rhythms, and the movement was
Mhm.
just so juicy and luscious. And in particular, I felt that it increased my flexibility
Mhm.
more than other dance forms, especially through my spine. I
Mhm.
gained more flexibility in back bends and more athletic type movements when I was training in Middle Eastern dance. I don't know if it was the way it was taught to me,
Mhm.
and the technique of um, increasing flexibility. It just made more sense in my body, and I
Mhm.
felt that I gained a lot more strength and flexibility with Egyptian dance or Arabic dance more than other dance forms. That just worked for me, as far as my body went.
That's really interesting because that's not something we've ever spoken about before. So you had danced because you were, I thought, I seem to recall you also did acrobatics prior to
Yeah, some
dance.
dance, yeah, dance acrobatics,
And
somewhat.
so the Middle Eastern dance gave you more flexibility than the other movement practices you had engaged in.
Yes. I think it's because the movement to me is very organic.
Yes.
It's it feels more natural, even
Mhm.
though it's not natural. It takes work, and to learn, it's
Of
hard to learn.
course.
Of course, it takes work, but the movements of the torso,
Mhm.
I think, just worked for my body, where I felt that I wasn't fighting against anything. It was a natural progression in my muscles, and
Yeah.
just seemed to want to respond to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way you teach is very whole body oriented. You do teach in that natural, organic style. And what I've always appreciated about your teaching is that it's not overly isolated.
Yes, that's the thing about Middle Eastern dance. I think Westerners tend to want to hyper isolate because that's a little more Western style
Mhm.
dance, like that pop locking style,
Yeah.
um, which is appealing to a lot of people, and that's fine. But but real Middle Eastern style is more organic. It's not so hyper isolated. Um, there's a naturalness to it.
Mhm.
If you watch Middle Eastern women walk,
Yeah.
especially when they're carrying things on their head and they carry
Yeah.
very large bundles on their head, they have this very easy sway to their bodies. They're not rigid and walking really
Mm-hmm.
rigid like you would think.
Right.
It's very natural, and their hips just sway naturally side to side like you would when you're just walking, you know.
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting because they don't walk real straight and like stiff like you would think if you were balancing something on your head. They walk very naturally.
Yeah. It's fascinating from a neuromovement perspective because we talk about even distribution of motion. So ideal motion uh, translates throughout the body. It might be more focused in one area, but it's never isolated. And so, of course, if you're balancing something on your head, you have to let the rest of the body accommodate to that.
Okay.
And that's part of what I love about how you teach and then the quality of movement in your dance. I really enjoy watching you dance. If any of you have YouTube access, go watch Zahra's YouTube videos because the quality of movement, it is. It's just so juicy. I love that.
That's what I
So
love about the dance. I feel that's what I feel about it. It's juicy.
it's juicy. It's
Yeah.
juicy. And you don't get that juiciness if you're rigid,
Right. Right.
right? So when you started learning, you started here in the States and then you started traveling. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. When I started traveling in the early 80s, when I first went to Egypt, it wasn't as open to foreigners, foreign dancers, as it is now. Now there's festivals, and not so much with COVID, but
Yeah.
uh, there's, since probably 2000, there's the festivals and
Mhm.
the international dancers that would come to Egypt. It was just astounding. I mean, just unbelievable. It just became such a global phenomenon. But the festivals, the dance festivals, are all over the world now. But Egypt,
Mhm.
when Egypt started these big dance festivals, it just was just amazing. People would come from all over. But when I first started, it was not that open. You couldn't even find a
Mhm.
teacher. Yes, they just didn't teach foreigners. They didn't
Wow.
really understand why a foreigner would want to take classes. So Mahmoud Reda was the most accessible teacher, and I
Mhm.
started with him. And little by little, you start finding other teachers that would teach. But it was very difficult. It wasn't just easy to take classes.
No.
And I started I just fell in love with Egypt. and the music and the dance. The style is there's different styles of belly dance all over the Middle East, and that has to do more with the music of each region.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I fell in love with Egyptian style, and that was early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And I just started immersing myself in Egyptian dance, and I started traveling. I started working in Europe,
Mhm.
and I went to Morocco, Turkey, in different,
Yeah.
areas of the Middle East, and it was just quite an experience. It was quite a journey.
Is that something you had ever imagined yourself when you took your first class?
No, and I had no plans or to be a professional dancer.
Mhm.
My first teacher passed away at a
I'm
young
sorry.
age, and people kept asking me, "Are you going to teach? Are you going to, pursue this further?" She really, thought you were one of her best students and you were so blah blah blah, and I kept saying, "Oh, no, no, I couldn't do it. No, I can't do that.
Oh,
I can't dance professionally. I can't teach." And people kept asking me, and I started teaching a little. The restaurant that she performed regularly asked me to start performing in her place, and I had performed before, but just a little, not a lot. And I just didn't think I could do it, but I took I took it on, and I was in that particular restaurant for like 6 years, 6, 7 years, and it just kind of snowballed. I was teaching, I was traveling. I had no idea that was going to change my life like that when I took my first lesson.
lucky for us. Lucky for us. So this was undreamed of, right?
Yeah,
Something
undreamed of, completely.
undreamed of.
Yeah.
Because you also conduct tours in Egypt, right?
I do. And my last tour was just before COVID.
Yeah.
It was 2019. So my 2020 tour didn't happen. And this year, I think I'll wait till 2022 and just let things, calm down. But my past tours, my few past tours, I've taken trips to the Siwa Oasis.
Nice.
So we start in Cairo, we do all the dancing and classes and go see all the shows and stay up all night and have a wonderful time and see all the sights in Cairo. And then we go to the Siwa Oasis, which is way out in the desert, in the western desert. It's pretty close to Libya. It's about 30 miles from Libya, and you're just out in the middle of nowhere. And it's like going back in time. It's like being
Oh,
biblical times. It's just unbelievable.
it gives me chills.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. There's natural hot springs.
Wow.
What is called Cleopatra's Bath. Legend has it she bathed there. So it's just pretty special. It's very magical, and that's been my few past tours. We've done the Siwa Oasis, and that's been pretty special.
Yeah, I've warned my husband. It's on my bucket list.
Yes, really, it's pretty special.
That sounds fantastic. And again, just wow, to go from taking classes as a teenager with your mom to I do tours in Egypt.
Wow.
How else has the dance changed your life?
It's just been so amazing. I mean, just to teach, I've been teaching for 45 years or I don't know how
Yeah.
long, but just the people I've met and just all the relationships and
Mm-hmm.
experiences has been so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And another way it's changed my life is not really changed my life, but it's been very special is that now that I'm older, I'm still able to do it.
Yes.
And it's basically a low impact,
Yes.
easy on your body type of dance.
Yes.
And I think it's kept me young.
Mm-hmm.
It's kept me flexible. It's really been amazing. I appreciate it so much more now than
Oh,
ever,
wow.
because when you're young, you're just young and your body's great,
Yeah.
and when you have a healthy young body. And now that I'm older, it's like, wow, that probably saved me from I don't know what,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still able to do it. I'm able to teach. I'm able to dance. I feel good. It's
Yeah.
um, kept me flexible. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. And I think it goes beyond the body because I know you have a very true love of the music. And I think that our brains really benefit from marrying movement to music in that really, um, I want to say inspired, but in a very respectful, inspired way. Do you want to talk a bit about your interaction with the music, your thoughts on the music?
Well, the music is it's very rich. It's very, the dance itself, this is what I love about the dance too,
Yeah.
is all dance forms have basic steps in
Mhm.
movements. So you have your set of basics, and then
Mhm.
you build on that.
Right.
Middle Eastern movement is you have your basic movement, and then there's so many variations of the same movement based on your reaction, your body's response to the music.
Yeah.
You can do a
Mhm.
hip circle hundreds of different ways,
Yeah.
just based on the music and the
Yeah.
changes in the music. So there's so much variation and
Mhm.
so much to play with even just one basic movement
Yeah.
that is just, there's something so delightful about it and so almost hypnotic about it.
Yes. Yes. And this is, I'm going to take a moment to translate that into neuromovement for some of my people because we work according to the 9 essentials, which are principles that basically keep us in a neuroplastic state. So our brain can change, can grow. And one of them is variation, right? So working with variations, playing with different, um, improvising, right? Which is at the heart of the dance. For people who aren't familiar with Middle Eastern dance, do you want to describe a bit about improvisation?
Yes, improvisation is, well, really, Raqs Sharki, or what people call belly dance,
Yeah,
is a solo improvisational
yeah,
dance,
yeah,
women's dance. Although many men do it too,
yeah.
but it's traditionally improvised,
Mhm.
and the movements are varied according to what the music is doing.
Mhm.
So you're in when you're improvising,
Mhm.
you really have to go into this relaxed state,
Yeah.
listen, and just let the music move your body.
Mhm.
It's almost meditative. To me, it's very meditative.
And it's a felt thing.
It's a very feely thing.
Yeah,
You have to feel it in your body. Not that that doesn't take a lot of work. A lot of
of course.
students and newer dancers find that very frightening.
Mhm.
And it's it takes a lot of experience and time
Mhm.
to really get into that and just be able to relax enough and let
Yes.
go of fear and overthinking
Mhm.
and over planning.
Mhm.
Just let the music move you. And that's a great thing in classes is improvisation and letting people work in a safe space where they can just
Yes.
get into it and feel there's no mistakes that you can just do that without anybody caring if you make a mistake.
Yes. Yes. And it's so much fun. And I feel like right there, like there's the nugget. What you just described is what also happens. You've met all the conditions for neuroplastic change, because you're offering a safe space for people. We can't learn when we're afraid, right? You're offering a safe space, and there's some constraints, which is what allows us to be creative, right? So the constraint might be the music. You only have these movements to play with today. And this is exactly, I feel like I'm benefiting a lot from this conversation because this is exactly what, say, a voice-led lesson on the floor would be like in neuromovement. And it does take a lot for people to, power down
Mm.
and drop into that space where they can just feel and move without being really fixed on the outcome. So I would love to get your take on how you see uh, flexible goals, is what we call it, how you see flexible goals playing out in the dance, in a dance career, in life in general.
Wow. In the dance, it takes it takes some confidence. You have to build your
Mhm.
confidence in letting go. You have
Yes.
to be confident enough to let go and uh, to be able to improvise and be flexible with what's coming at you,
Mhm.
whether it's in the dance and improvising to music, or it's in a career, because I've had to think on my feet a lot. you know,
Yes.
Things, don't always happen the way you expect them to happen. And you have to be flexible. And I think this dance in particular, has
Yes.
taught me to be very flexible
Mhm.
in working in another culture. And
Mhm.
they're, especially let's say Egypt or anywhere in the Middle East, they're much more relaxed. And there's everything is inshallah, or God willing.
Yes.
It's whatever happens happens, in other words. We're not going to make a lot of plans here. So you have to be very flexible, and I've
Mhm.
learned to just roll with the punches and just, you have to,
Yeah.
because there's when you're working in another culture, you
Mhm.
have to just roll with that, we'll see what happens kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And I tend to be very, I want to be I'm very organized, and I plan,
Yes.
I'm a
Mhm.
planner, and I like things to just go a certain way. And I've learned to be far more flexible with that, and just let things roll a little bit
Mhm.
more. And that's very difficult for me. It still is. But I think that's really taught me to not get hung up on details so much. You want to be organized
Mhm.
and be a planner, and but you have to also let things just go the way they go, because we
Right.
really don't have control over a whole lot of things. We think we do. We don't.
We don't. You're so right.
You know,
Wow.
you have to just roll with the punches sometimes, and whether it's in a career or you're performing, performing, you can, anything can happen.
Mhm.
And you have to learn to think on your feet. And that's what the dance has taught me. Think on your
Yeah.
feet. Literally, I've had to think
Literally.
on my feet. um, but in other ways, just in my career in business and teaching
Mhm.
classes, and COVID hit and I had all kinds of plans, and
Yeah.
jobs planned, and you've got to learn to roll. And
Yeah. And you have rolled. You continue to roll because you're now on Patreon. Yes. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
I'm on Patreon. I've never thought, I never did anything like that. But I teach classes, video classes. I make a new video every week on Patreon, and they're little mini classes, and
Mhm.
it's really fun. I really love it. It's really a lot of fun. I've been teaching, Zoom
Mhm.
since COVID, and it's really been great. It's just a different experience. I love Patreon just because I can be creative. I just come up with something new every week, or I might continue something for a couple of weeks, but
Right.
I just come up with a new little video. It's really fun.
That's fantastic. I mean, just think of all the new skills that you've learned just to stay in the dance world. I mean, I never would have thought it when I started dancing with you that I would have to learn color theory, right? But
I,
there's all these side benefits and not the smallest of which is, as you mentioned, working within another culture.
yeah,
I'd really forgotten about that. That's huge, especially now, I think.
it's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. So what else do you have going on, or what else have you thought of that you'd like to share with us?
The benefits that I've seen that the dance has had on other women,
Yes.
people, just from all walks of life, all ages, all
Hmm.
everything. Uh, it's just really surprising to me
Hmm.
because you think of dance as benefiting people physically. Most
Of course.
women take it for exercise, but just even socially, the
Hmm.
relationships and that people have made, and the transformations people have made in their life. It's given people more confidence to go out, change careers, and just
Hmm.
in so many ways, more than just physical activity.
Hmm.
It's you just watch people blossom and change at all ages.
At all ages. And I'm curious about that because I'm trying to think of other movement disciplines where that happens, and it may happen, but I've never heard other people talk about that in like, oh, ballet changed my life. I mean, there are very dedicated ballet dancers, but I've never heard anyone talk about the emotional transformation because I've heard similar stories to yours, like they finally got the confidence to change things in their household that needed changing.
Yes,
It they got the confidence to, or just the confidence to feel good in their own skin,
yes,
you
yeah,
know?
yes, and just the sense of community
Yeah,
that the dance has. It's pretty amazing. I
it
haven't
is.
seen that in other dance forms.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Wow, as always, it's a transformative conversation with you, Zahra. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, I had originally phrased it, what would you tell young dancers just starting out? But you can start this dance at any age. What what would you tell dancers of any age just starting out in Middle Eastern dance? What little nugget of wisdom do you have for them?
It to not be afraid to reach your goals. I don't care how old you are. You can perform, you can teach, you can, I don't care what size you are.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. There are
Yeah.
people that have started a career, maybe just teaching a
Mhm.
class, and they've been very inspirational teachers. Maybe they
Mhm.
didn't start till they were 40 or
Yeah.
50, but they've become amazing teachers. And you can inspire people at any age, no matter what. You can be an
Yeah.
inspiration and just go for your dreams. You know, there's a place for everybody in dance, or maybe don't be afraid to just perform. Don't think you're too old
Yeah.
or too this or too that. Um, find a good teacher,
Mhm.
study the culture and the music, and have a great time. You know, and just
Yeah.
just go on a journey. Take the journey.
Take the journey. I love that. And it's so true. I hadn't thought about it until now, but it's not just community for the dancers, it's community for the families. My family misses going to haflas with me. They
Mm,
miss the other families. They miss, the camaraderie. It was truly a community event. So, yeah, go for it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful, Zahra. Thank you. When this conversation goes live, for those of you who want to find Zahra, and you all do, she's going to drop her comments, her links in the comments below. So you've got your Patreon, your website. Is there anything else you'd want to share with our listeners?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, so you can find me a whole lot of places. So,
Zahra Zuhair. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Zahra. It's been a true pleasure.
oh, thank you so much. I loved it.
Wonderful. Till next time.